down the middle, just around the corner. Hook shot at 12. Good! Second flip. The Lakers take the lead on Randy Johnson's running sky hook.
And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to your favorite day of the week. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine Friday morning. We're going a little earlier today.
Got me in the salt mines early, Anthony.
Than we usually do. Thank you, Pete, for your flexibility on this front. I have one of the weirder. Everybody out here, Pete, in Texas is like battening down the hatches because we have like a winter storm coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the like sure signs that like we might be really in for it is Ted Cruz is going on vacation.
Oh yeah, he's dipping.
Like this weird like Texas groundhog. It's like it's like one of the clearer indicators that the weather's going to be really bad and that people are going to be in some danger is Ted Cruz is heading out. So you've
always known how to trigger me early in a show, so you kind of get the best out of me. You kind of get me riled up a little bit. Well done.
So like I was like, yeah, I have like a doctor's appointment. I have some stuff going on, and I was like, Pete, do you mind going a little early? And you're like, yeah, how early? And I had miscalculated. I was like, hey, do you want to go at 8 in the morning? And you're like, fuck no, I don't want to.
I do not want to go at 8. Like, that's one of the things about this job too. Is it's like, look, it's great work. Right? Wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But there are some times where it's like, I don't want to be what's up Laker fans guy. Like, I don't have much what's up in me at the moment. But we got to record.
I'm barely up. Yeah. Turns out operating 2 hours ahead of everybody that I work with in this industry is, presented a couple of challenges, but yeah, man, we've had an interesting couple of weeks or so since the last time you and I spoke, right? We have the Lakers kicking off 2026 with, some interesting basketball that they've been playing, right? Like, I think that the basketball has taken a bit of a turn in that with Drew Timme being inserted into the rotation, they're playing bigger. We're seeing more balanced lineups, right? I think with Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt spending more time on the court together, and lineups that take on those kinds of characteristics as well. So I want to talk to you about that. Obviously, over the last week or so, over the last few days, the story revolving around the Lakers has been Baxter Holmes' reporting for ESPN about the Buss sibling drama. And last night, LeBron was actually asked about it. So we'll play some of his reaction to it in the show and kind of discuss some of that. Harrison and I were talking about it like the day after. So a lot of it was kind of the immediate reaction, but I thought a lot more about the industry reaction. And without getting too inside baseball, I think there's some interesting stuff going on there. And then this is the last time, Pete, you and I are going to talk before the trade deadline. So
that's true, isn't it? Yeah, it's like from yesterday. Is that the deadline?
Yeah. We're on. It's January 23rd. The deadline is February 5th. So we're like right around the corner from it. Yeah. And this is when things really start heating up, and you start hearing about specific and impactful conversations that teams are having. Right, like to this point, I always laugh at like Team X and Team Y are talking about Player Z, and it's like they've been talking all year about Player Z. They
had a conversation.
What else do you think?
What do you think they do? Yeah, I mean, they do a few other things, but that's kind of their job. Is to
So we'll discuss some of what we would like to see over the next couple of weeks as well. So kind of a loaded show here, Pete. How you holding up though?
I'm doing well. Yeah, feeling good. Looking forward to sort of like the next transaction window and step for this team. I think it's going to be more of a minor one. I think the main event is this off season, but I'm excited. I appreciate how the team sort of, I think despite the loss last night, kind of gotten restabilized a little bit. Very excited about Austin coming back soon.
Yeah.
So
you got a fresh haircut. Ready.
Yeah, looking all the team. Everybody, did they get a deal at Supercuts or something? Because like Lucas shit is really severe. Like these are very severe like fades, and I don't know, man.
I I was waiting for like the report that like Luka Doncic bought everybody haircuts.
Uh-huh.
Because they all look the same
They
too.
do.
Like
Yeah,
all
it's
the
the same
haircuts
haircut.
look
It's like
the
all
same.
you.
Like,
It's like when you got like 5 kids, and it's like, all right, all y'all put a bowl on your head. We're gonna do this in 15 minutes.
well, it was very like European high phase where you go from like
Yeah.
the skin type,
Severe,
razor
man.
to,
Like, get some sun at least before you do that. Like,
yeah. I was like, there's some like it's never a good look to have tan lines on your head.
right. That's right.
So anyway, so we'll talk about all of that good stuff. Let's start though with this ESPN thing. And there's a couple of takeaways that are new today than I think have been talked about over the last 48 hours. One, I have found the reaction to this in the industry fascinating in that there has been basically no reaction. So like Baxter Holmes drops this for ESPN, and you could tell like they had the big fancy banner, and they, Baxter did a sit down with Malika Andrews, right? And like it was this thing that like ESPN, I think, was like trying to drum up more interest in it than there actually was.
You don't say.
And then, well, I was trying to think of like why, because if you compared this to the reaction to the Aspiration story, there was a lot more like ESPN trying to get this thing going, whereas like with Aspiration, it always felt like ESPN was kind of like,
It's very obvious. We shouldn't even use sort of like qualifying language for that. That's absolutely what they did. It was an entirely different approach. They flew out Ballmer to be on the show and be like, well, actually,
that is aged like milk in July in Vegas.
Man. Billionaires don't get
to
do whatever they want, man. It's so fucking, they're shameless.
So, but anyway, so I was like, I was kind of like reading the industry reaction to it. The Athletics coverage of it before LeBron was asked about it last night was Jeanie's statement to Sam Amick, right? And like basically no other written reaction to it. There was no like aggregation even on the Athletic, and I found that kind of interesting. There was very little corroboration of any of the details from reporters locally, which I found really interesting. Not saying that Baxter didn't have his stuff. I didn't really sense anything new in there. Like you and I are like, like we pay very close attention to this stuff. And he was literally ripping from a Hulu documentary on the Lakers. So I was like, man, there was nothing here.
No.
And so like I found all of that kind of like interesting to watch. Have you noticed the same kind of dynamic at play? Because the final note that I have, ESPN is in the business of deciding what is news, and that is a relatively new thing, right? That I think kind of really started under Woj, where like if Woj doesn't have a story first, it's not news. We aren't going to cover it, and then that is kind of transferred over, I believe, to Shams, and in this case, Shams didn't have this first, so that was kind of an interesting dynamic. He didn't even retweet Baxter's story, which, okay, that's odd. And then, these other publications, I think, have kind of taken on, followed that lead in that, like, well, if we don't have it first, we don't have it. We aren't going to really discuss it. And that has been, a real factor, I believe, in this story, and that like this isn't something that Shams broke. So ESPN isn't really going to treat it as one of its major stories. To the extent that they would if Shams had broken it. And the Athletic hasn't really touched it because what are you going to add to stuff that most people knew already? And it's just kind of led to, outside of LeBron's response last night, I think most people just kind of said like, okay,
we know,
and kind of moved on,
Yeah,
so
that's
where are you at?
No, that's my reaction as well. One of my common criticisms of ESPN is just another way of saying what you said, of that they're always trying to blow on the kindling, like, when you're trying to start a fire and, rub the sticks together, you get a little bit of smoke going, try to get it turn it into a fire, and they're trying to create news rather than report it. And while Shams didn't throw his weight behind it, but it was the main story on the main page. It was not topical at all, right? It wasn't something that like the Lakers had they just sold the team or something, like a week or two later, hey, I did all of this and tried to piece this all together. But no, it was totally out of nowhere in ways that
I think lawyers had something to do with that.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I mean, like when you write something like this, where there's an alleged text from one owner to another owner, lawyers have to vet it, so that's going to take some time too. But like it kind of came out of the blue, and I think they expected it to make a bigger splash, but it really didn't. And I really think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Shams wasn't involved with this.
I agree, but I think the main driver is what you said about how like we knew all of this. The people who care about this the most are Laker fans, but we're not the only people who care about this. It's like the people who hate the Lakers love shit like this too, right? It's like, oh, let's see. But even then, there were no it was the most salacious parts of it were the LeBron parts, and then and then the Jeanie isn't the nice person that you think she is type of parts. Darius had a really good observation on that. Those were sort of the most like, ooh, did you see this? Ooh, did you see that type of thing?
I mean, it is crazy that one owner of the Lakers told another owner of the Lakers, a family member, you should never have been born.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that like a 5-year-old says to their 3-year-old sibling, and the parent is like,
nope,
never say that
right now. Yep, exactly.
It's crazy to say that as a full-blown adult. But anyway.
But that's part of why, like, when I worked for the Lakers, like when I came into the Lakers, I was very pro Bus family, like in the kids and whatnot. And when I left, I was very like, this team needs to sell as soon as possible. Yeah, like it's that sort of like bullshit, lack of maturity, and that's where I'm at on it, Anthony. Like it's I'm so tired of talking about this. I do not care about the Bus family drama anymore. And Jeanie spoke to that right in her statement to Sam Amick.
She's like we know we're fucked up.
Yeah, like what does LeBron have to do with this? Like, don't put him into this, right? And so that leads to LeBron's reaction last night and all that. But all of this is the life cycle of the story that, to your point, that it's been kind of a flat reaction to it where people kind of shrug. And I even think LeBron's reaction was sort of like, people have been writing articles about me I think LeBron's kind of like tuned out on it in general. But yeah, Anthony, like the whole, why didn't this really hit that much? It's like, there's not much meat on the bone. It's been picked dead by all the vultures, all the other vultures. This is a skeleton of a story. Yeah.
I was somewhat disappointed by the lack of new information on it, and it's, look, it's difficult to report on a team that is so closely reported as the Lakers are.
Yeah.
Had there been such crazy new reporting there, like all of the local beat would have been like, what the hell, because it would have been, I don't know. It felt like one of those empty the notebook articles, but like the notebook has already been sitting there this whole time. Let's talk about the LeBron thing, because I'm with you. I do think like the Bus family drama and stuff doesn't matter anymore. They're not the owners of the Lakers, like Jeanie and Jim and Johnny and Jesse and Joey, they've all been fired. So like, we were talking about this in the chat on Offside, which, by the way, congratulations on joining the Offside squad. But we were talking about this. You had asked, like, what does everybody think about the Bus thing? For one thing, nobody responded. And then I did. And I was like, honestly, I felt kind of sad. Like I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker on stuff like this, but like, I always get sad when I see a family that's just like torn asunder and you're not going to recover from it. It seems like. So, we'll talk about the LeBron thing. He was asked about it last night. Now, this is a little bit longer of a clip. This is from Melissa Rowland of the California Post. She had, and there were other reporters there, but here's LeBron. And to your point, Pete, I'll just play the clip.
State of your Lakers tenure. Quite frankly, I don't really get involved in that or the reports or whatever the case may be. I've seen a lot of it, obviously, but I don't really care about the reports, to be honest. You guys know me. You guys know since I've been here in my 8th year here, been in this league 23 years. There's going to be another article tomorrow, especially involving me. And at the end of the day, when I came to this organization, my whole mindset was about restoring, excellence, the things that I've seen growing up, with the Lakers. Obviously, I didn't get an opportunity to watch the Showtime, but I know the history, and then in the early 2000s with Shaq and Kobe, and then what Kobe did, and, those couple runs with him and Powell. So, my whole mindset was like, how can I get, that feeling back to the Lakers organization, and where, when the Lakers and the Knicks and the Bulls and, the Celtics are.
He kind of goes on. And so to me, the two, and it's funny because they fall on both sides of the coin. To me, the two kind of reactions to it that were the most telling, Pete, was him saying what we saw there. I don't care. Plenty of shit written about me. There's going to be another new thing tomorrow. I am an entire news cycle, essentially, right? So that's, if you lean on the side of like, this does not matter, that aspect of LeBron's reaction helps. What I did find interesting was that he and Jeanie haven't spoken about it. Like they asked him, hey, has Jeanie reached out? Have you reached out? Like, have you guys gotten on the same page? Seeing as there's literally reporting from ESPN about your guys' relationship, he said no. And now again, he kind of said, like, I wouldn't have spoken to Mickey Harrison about this. I wouldn't have spoken to Dan Gilbert about this. And I won't talk or I haven't spoken to Jeanie Buss about this. What do you make of, because, you and Darius made the point in your guys' reaction to all of this, you would probably expect Jeanie to reach out, clear the air, and say, sorry, this is stupid that you got kind of caught up in all of this. What do you make of LeBron and Jeanie not speaking? You're muted, by the way. Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I'm aware. Sorry, it's my mic habits from the other show, and it's always been chaotic around the house, so I try not to.
Yeah.
I think that'll eventually happen, and I think we won't know about it, right?
Yeah.
I think there is a certain amount of, in LeBron's comment about, look, there's always going to be an article about me. There's going to be something about it tomorrow, and there's a certain element of like, I don't want to validate this bullshit. And we're not going to go jump and be like, oh, Baxter Holmes wrote something about us. Now you and I who've had a personal relationship for 8 years have to clear the air because there's something that I don't know or anything like that. But I do think that when the time comes and when it's appropriate, and I think part of it too is there is the on-camera reaction that LeBron is going to have and the on-camera answer. There's nobody more experienced in that exact scenario of that clip that we just played in the history of sports, which is really incredible. I don't think there's anybody who's ever answered more questions from the press than LeBron James as a professional athlete. He might be number one all time, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And so with that in mind, he knows exactly what he's doing and what to say. And even if he was feeling some type of way about it, that I think it would be communicated especially with he's got a good relationship with Jeanie, despite that report, right? Like that's not the level that they're on. And so it's not going to be this like, oh, well, you're hostile to me, I'm hostile to you. That's not that. And so I think it's going to happen at some point, but like the fact that it hasn't yet, I mean, it came out yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever. 2 days ago, I don't put much into it. Do you?
To quote Darius, yes and no. No, in that, it's none of our business if they do talk, Yes, in that, you're about to play a nationally televised game and you know that there's going to be questions about this and you would want to have a better answer lined up. That's just the PR brain in me kind of operating that way. It's so funny, Pete, because it really just it just completely depends on how you go, what you take into the story, because the amount of times that LeBron says, I don't care, you could take him at his word. But then also if somebody says, I don't care often enough, you're that also is kind of okay, but
you protest too much. You're saying,
I don't care. I swear, I don't care. Stop it. I don't care. It's okay.
Oh, it sounds like you care. Yeah. But
so it's and I don't even know really how I feel. I'm somewhere in between where I do think he's probably annoyed. I do think that the relationship between him and Jeanie and the Lakers has dramatically changed in very quick fashion because Luka showed up, and that has there's no apples to apples comparison here, because usually when a superstar is being shown the door or is retiring or something like that, the heir isn't like in his prime right there, you know? Like with even like with Dirk and Luka was a rookie and
And
Luka
Dirk was ancient too, right? Like I know LeBron is as well, but Dirk was not what LeBron is now. So it's not the same dynamic. Yeah.
There is nothing analogous to this situation. And so I think that makes all of this very difficult for us to analyze, but I also think it makes it really difficult for all of the parties involved to navigate. And you know, I think what we're watching is a situation that no organization has ever been through. And in this case, it's the marquee franchise in the NBA trying to navigate this, being reported on to the extent that the marquee franchise in the NBA gets reported on. You know? So I think if there is some, you know, bitterness at how it ends, that everybody's bitterness at the end of relationships.
This is a great point, and it speaks to something that, like, look, I want the Lakers to win the championship this year, ideally, right? I don't think they will, but there are a lot of things about this year. Redick was talking last night about how they have a lot of guys that are either free agents or have player options. There are a lot of ingredients like that, including what you just said, that's like this year could have been / still could be. There's enough time to have been a total fucking disaster, right? And so like
we were nervous about that.
Yeah, we're 10 games over 500, right? Like I know they haven't played good ball over the last 6 to 8 weeks and all of that, but there's a part of me that's grateful that this year has not been yet kind of all of that stuff that's been kind of out there. It hasn't really come to a head yet.
Yeah, I mean, JJ literally, addressing that last night was interesting. We'll talk about that later in the show. But yeah, the last thing that I'll say about the LeBron Jeanie thing, and then I want to move on to basketball. The one devil's advocate point that I would make as far as like there being some potential annoyance or bitterness towards LeBron being seen as the savior from Jeanie is we do know that Jeanie can be petty, right? Like we know that if LeBron is seen as the savior while all of her closest friends are being picked apart for not deserving the jobs that they hold, that's going to make her feel a certain way and pick it like a specific scab that would get the kind of response that we saw in that Baxter Holmes article. And I'm not saying that I definitely believe that that's going on, or that somebody close enough to Jeanie would leak that to Baxter Holmes, because that's the kind of thing Jeanie would say to Linda, and Linda wouldn't leak that, you know? But that said, like having seen the way that Jeanie felt about Jerry West at the end, where literally he dies and it takes the Lakers like 13 hours to say anything. And it was just a RIP graphic, you know? So we know that she has that in her, you know, and her being able to tell her brother, her little brother, who saw her as an older sister, you know, to have it in her to tell him you should never have been born. Like I don't know Jeanie well enough to speak definitively on any end of the spectrum. But if I see pettiness in somebody and then it's reported that she's being petty, I'm like,
I can see that.
I can see it. You know. So what do you think about that as a takeaway?
Yeah, I think that's certainly part of who she is, and then that's part of the, you know, like the dynamic that's at play here. But like I don't know what I think in this particular instance, though, like LeBron still has enough power going forward, even from you have to do right by your superstars continuously in order to think of the Kobe extension, right? That on the paper, for the on-court product and all that, he did not warrant that as a player then in that moment, but it had the long-term benefit that I would argue partially contributed to LeBron. Exactly. And so the same thing, LeBron out the door. Listen, when somebody's putting up 35 and 13 and 12 in NBA Finals games and doing all the shit LeBron was doing in 2020, it's very easy to love them and treat them well, right?
Yeah.
It's how you treat somebody like that on the way out when they don't have that matters a lot. And so even if there is that petty streak, I don't think that's manifesting at all in this situation with LeBron. If for no other reason than Jeanie is not incentivized to like piss off superstars. This is still very important to her.
Really quickly, we have, somebody saying we need Aaron for the Jeanie episode. I wouldn't put Aaron in that.
No, that's not.
That'd be unfair to him.
No, I don't think he'd do it either. Just from a like talk. Oh, I'm going to talk about no.
No, Jeanie's like a sister to him.
Yeah,
he'll tell you that, and I will. I don't want to put him in that spot. Love Aaron too much to do that to him. But yeah, I think. Yeah, it just all of this sounds like the end of a relationship, and ends of relationships are complicated. Did things almost never end blissfully? Unless
that's why I'm saying this could be a lot worse, and maybe it will end up being, but for exactly that reason, yes.
Yeah. So we'll move on. I want to talk about the way that the Lakers have been playing, and you said that this has been kind of up and down. There's two key factors here, Pete, that I've been thinking about a lot. Even when the Lakers were playing at their best this season, it was a real reliance on free throw shooting and free throw discrepancy, and I thought that the free throws kind of propped up some of the efficiency that we saw from Austin and Luka. Luka was shooting too poorly from three for it not to be propped up, by something else. And recently, Tom Haberstroh has been documenting a real shift from referees in that, like, they are blowing their whistle a lot less frequently now than they did at the beginning of the season. There are some specific stats that I should have had ready for you, but I'm not a professional. But like the crux of it is, like, while the Lakers were playing really well earlier, it wasn't even something that I mentioned on the show because I didn't want to be Debbie Downer, but it was something I kind of had tucked away. It's like, what happens if those points go away? And last night it was really kind of interesting because the defense was kind of struggling or whatever, but the offense has been more up and down recently than the defense has been. You kind of it's a Luka, LeBron, Austin team. I don't expect them to be the Pistons of Ben Wallace years. What I do expect them to be is excellent on offense, and I think they need free throw shooting to help that to a certain extent. Have you noticed this as well as a factor here?
No, I think that's actually a very good observation. It's not something that I had noticed from in my own analysis, but I think you're spot on that's going to affect the Lakers. Austin being out in this respect also affects the Lakers, that we'll get more free throws once he gets back. I think this version of the Lakers without Austin is pretty guardless in a lot of ways. And the best performances that they've had have been very we're bigger and more skilled from you type of performances. That the Clippers are not particularly fast, but they're a pretty big team. Zoo had 10 offensive rebounds last night. We could have really used DA. Yeah, he was great, but Kawhi is big for his position just across the board. They play Collins at the 4 quite a bit. And so I think the Lakers are badly missing just an element of speed attack that even last night, the bigs between Ayton and Jackson, they were minus 18, whereas the Vando at the 5 groups or somebody else at the 5 was a plus 10, I think, in that game. And so that they're vulnerable to speed. The Clippers, I think
Vando led all the Lakers in plus minus. He was like a plus 18 last night.
Yeah, he was very, very effective. And so I think that on a lot of these instances, it's matchup based. Like with the Clippers, I think that they are big enough to where we can't just big boy them, especially if DA is going to be a ghost the way that he was. And so he really cuts into, when we played, who was it the other night that we played where he went 10 for 10 and had 25? And Atlanta. Yeah, I think it was the Atlanta game. And that's a great example, right? You got a Kongwu at the 5 who's a little smaller, and across the board, they're not as physically strong.
Or even the Nuggets, right? They start Aaron Gordon at the 5.
Right, exactly, with Valanciunas and Jokic out. And so somebody I caught out of the corner of my eye in the chat pointed out that the Lakers need more offensive diversity. I think that's a really smart way of looking at it. That's one thing that stood out to me about last night's game is that LeBron was trying to attack as a guard more than he has. And we were so heavy on Luka pick and rolls. And my thought process is that these guys are so skilled that, like, get some of them coming off of screens on some plays, get them in the post on other plays, get them setting the screen themselves on another play, that, you know, lean into their diversity, where if you're just running Luka ball screens every play, I think that you're making a mistake. And so between that, and I thought they were targeting guys that when LeBron was a little bit younger, he would get by off of the dribble, like Zubats, for example. But now it's like, oh crap, 18-footer, you know, that's contested type thing. He's not getting all the way to the rack on those. So so that has been one of my bigger concerns about this year, is that we shouldn't be this easy to take out of what we do on the offensive end.
Yeah, the switchy teams have given the Lakers some issues for some of this too.
Yeah.
Benet makes a point there at the bottom.
Benet, what's up, man? I love your work, man. I really respect you.
Yeah, the playing with more pace.
Luka's been doing that more lately. Like this little run that he's on, he's sort of like,
we were laughing about it on Offside yesterday, where he was like, he was in a 2-on-1 with LeBron, and LeBron threw a pass that he would throw to LeBron.
That's not what I'm talking about, but that possession was hilarious. That was the Luka skedaddle. Like, and we were talking like, at what age would Luka be able to run a 2-on-1 as fast as LeBron? Like, how old would LeBron have to be? I think I settled on like 57. Like 57-year-old LeBron and 27-year-old Luka are filling the lane at the same speed. But no, what I mean is, like, when Luka's at his best, it's pace in the front court, and it goes from like one move to the next, where it's like, first off, he's looking to get into it right away, right into the shot session and whatnot. And but his moves, it's almost like it's almost martial artistry, where it's like, hard, short step, jab step, stop between the legs, shot fake. Like he does like three things in sequence, where it's this combo type of move that I think pace is just essential to what Luka does, especially. And so that is such a factor really overall for the Lakers. And it's kind of a thing where the league has started to go in a different direction with the sideline breaks. Like a whole bunch of teams are like, fuck it, we're not setting up. Like, let's just go. Let's put our foot on the gas and whatnot.
Yeah, I would say that like that when the Lakers play with pace, it means they're getting stops. And if they get stops, you have somebody like LeBron in transition, and you have a really good half-court team also get to operate in transition. And that's when the Lakers it can be a bit of an avalanche, right? Mm-hmm. And last night was a good example of it. Like, what they give up in the second half, like 36 total points against the Clippers last night.
And that's been a few games in a row where they've had like really good defensive performances. Yeah.
And I think that really leads into their offense, because, getting stops and getting out a little bit, and some of those rhythm issues that the Lakers run into because of how heliocentric they can become kind of fall by the wayside a little bit, because, somebody like, Rui gets a leak out here and there. Jake will get a leak out, and they'll get touches in transition that they might not necessarily get in the half court. And yeah, like it's something that LeBron and Luka don't really love doing, but when the Lakers do get out and run, like they look like a significantly better team.
My question is more like, not should they play with more pace? I absolutely think they should. It's can they play with more pace? It's like, really just a game like that last night. When the Lakers had really turned up their intensity, they were a better team than the Clippers. But the Lakers can't play 48 and almost no team plays all 48 like super hard, right? But like the Lakers lost that game because there was a gap from the end of the first quarter through like the first few minutes of the third, where the Clippers just hammered them and they just could not get from an energy perspective. But then in the second half, you saw that possession of Rui had, that ISO possession, right? Like, but
do you think he's sore today from that?
But there was just a certain amount of like life and spirit where it's like, you're putting pressure on them defensively that it looked nothing like the first half. So my question is like, can they play with pace and defend like that? Because that's playing with a certain amount of defensive pace, right? We think of pace from an offensive standpoint as we should, but there's also a defensive pace that my question is like, can they play with more pace? Because they absolutely should.
Well, that's where JJ widening the rotation a little bit helps.
Go deeper with that. Yep. Good idea.
And I think that's something that is worth looking for when Austin comes back. You know who's been a big part of that has been Drew Timme, because it's this small thing that you notice, especially is like, because I was a point guard. I think you were a point guard too, right? So like, touche. Well, it's funny because like in California, I was a point guard because everybody at my high school was 5'10" and up. But when I would go play basketball in El Paso, where everybody is 5'7",
yeah, you're 3 in El Paso. You're in El Paso.
Yeah.
An El Paso 3.
Yeah, they're like, hey man, can you play center? I was like, do what? And then so anyway, but it's this thing that like would drive me nuts sometimes with bigs with the way that they rebound, which is if I'm grabbing a rebound and the baseline that I'm trying to score on is back there, and the baseline that I'm defending is like I'm looking at it, right? So the basket's here, so I'm getting a rebound.
You're turned away from your own basket.
Yeah. The thing that Ayton does that drives me nuts is how frequently he lands still facing the baseline that he's defending.
Instead of pivoting as he's...
Yeah, like you should be every big. This is like one of the fundamentals that I think sets like, good bigs that help in transition apart from the ones that don't. But every big should be able to, while you're grabbing a rebound, you should be able to turn and at least be like facing a sideline when you land. And it's this thing that Ayton doesn't do, but you watch Timmy when he gets a rebound, and it is like he's catching it, and his head is immediately up the court, and that helps get the ball to LeBron, who throws the hit ahead pass to whoever, and that's something that like I think that's part of why when Timmy is out there, the Lakers seem to have more life than they do. Like I really like the Timmy and Jackson minutes. Because you have Jackson as like the athleticism that you kind of lack with Timmy, but you still have the size out there, and Timmy can space the floor about as well as like anybody outside of Rui, so like,
that's a recent development. I don't trust it, Anthony. Like he's never been a stretch five. Timmy, yeah, he's never been a stretch five before. This is something he's worked on that like his jumper looks good. And so like I could see it being this from here on out.
I think it'll be better next year. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. If that's the case, like he's a legit NBA player. Because I think the problem with him was always like, look, he's got the defensive issues. We don't need to cover that too much. But if you're going to be an offense only guy like that, it's like you're going to need to stretch the floor too. And if you don't, like you're kind of on the border. So if this 3-point shooting is real, it's a whole different ball game. So that's part of my concern about Timmy and Hayes is that like I don't trust that yet, but if it's real, we're in business.
Well, I also think, and this is something that I was joking with on the show with Kobe Price, one of the episodes that we did a little while back, but like NBA players just react differently to white guys being open behind the 3-point line because they've always been trained like
shooter.
Yes, right. In AAU, if there's like he's out here for a reason,
shooter.
If there's a white guy playing at this level, he probably can shoot.
Yeah,
and so like and I think Austin benefits from this. I think Jake benefits from this, and I think Timmy will also benefit from this as well. And if teams do react to Timmy like a shooter, then I think that would really change a bunch. But I really love like he has great feet. That really surprised me. Like the way that he runs like he's just like a bigger 6'8" dude. Whereas like you watch 7-footers running, like okay, you run like a 7-footer. And that has been nice to see. I love the passing and the biggest thing with him, Pete, that really I think unlocks the basketball identity shift that we've been seeing here from the Lakers recently is he makes decisions fast. And that's something that they really have to prioritize here moving forward. Is like I think Laravia is on this same path. I think Smart can be some helps in this regard as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just get guys who like they know what the play is going to be as they're getting the ball, and I think Timmy really lends himself to actually Hayes because his like
very,
can I dunk or can I not dunk?
Yeah,
but
he does a great job of making those short roll reads, and like Hayes is a much better passer than people realize.
Yeah. And so like this new basketball identity, Pete, of like being like leaning into bigger, stronger, definitely not faster, but bigger and stronger. That doesn't involve Gabe Vincent.
No, it does not.
So do you think when Austin comes back, I think it's pretty clear that he should just get all of the Gabe minutes and he should get like, if like Buffkin or Nick Smith Jr., wherever, like a part of the rotation, like Austin should just get all of those minutes and Austin should be the smallest person that the Lakers play.
Well, what's funny is I was looking at the box score last night through this exact question of like, whose minutes does Austin eat? And Gabe right away. And then after that, I was like, Vando's minute total was a little high. I could get up to maybe 24 minutes for Austin, right? But everybody else, I was like, I like this minute total for everybody else, but you got to prioritize. I'm not saying that Austin should, should not take those minutes, but it's a good thing. It also, as we lead into the trade deadline, I'm like, is there a 2-for-1 trade out there? Just get us one good player back type of thing that, could help alleviate that a little bit. But yeah, man, Gabe should be out of the rotation when Austin's back.
The thing I'm kind of looking for,
Gabe Vincent, yes. Sorry.
the thing that I'll be looking for is that like 2-for-1 deal, and I kind of feel like it has to involve Rui, right? Because I do think that they need to open up some rotation minutes for whoever that they acquire, like, and to just Pete, it's been just like crystal clear basically since 2019, 2020 that this is always the identity that the Lakers should have leaned into with LeBron and AD, and then now with LeBron and Luka and Austin. Like, you have the ideal player for bigger, stronger player in LeBron James, and he's still playing at a pretty damn good level. Like, I was laughing at the debate on the Hoop Collective about is LeBron an all-star? Like, are his numbers good enough for him to be an all-star? And I'm like, over whom? Like, who are we talking about here? You
have a much stronger games played argument with LeBron than you do with that. Yeah. Especially like LeBron didn't have a preseason, right? Like, I know this is sort of, you don't have to do this, but if you kind of factor in like maybe the first 6 games for LeBron's preseason and then look at his numbers, after that, it's like, that looks like LeBron James numbers to me.
Yeah. But like it's always been really clear to me that like, so no matter what the Lakers do with the deadline, I think it has to lean into bigger, stronger, and you're not going to be faster. Like, you're just not going to be faster with Austin and Luka, but can you be bigger and stronger? Because what you cannot be in basketball is slower and smaller and not able to shoot.
Yeah.
And that I think is where some of like this, the multi-guard lineups have left the Lakers, is that like those guards aren't very fast. They can't shoot very well. And they're obviously inherently smaller. So those lineups have really kind of struggled. And like, if I was to throw, like, everybody knows the names, right? Like, MPJ is somebody that I've kind of been looking at all year. And the Lakers have apparently kicked the tires there. I mean, they've kicked the tires everywhere, like we joked, earlier. DeAndre Hunter is apparently somebody that the Lakers have called about as well. Is there any, like, you and I both like Sadiq Bey. I think he is somebody that is attainable who would, immediately fit into this identity. But do you think that I have given up on the whole, like, find another starter for next year deal, unless they're willing to trade Ayton and the first rounder and like expirings for Claxton or something like that. Which maybe if the market elsewhere dries up, maybe they do something like that. But the big thing for me, Pete, is like, and it's based off of JJ's comments after last night's game. The Lakers have, like, it's been such constant turnover, and it's been constant preparation for turnover. And it's been like, there's never been an identity that the Lakers have really fully committed to. And, outside of like their superstars, there hasn't been really a core that they have committed to. And that to me is the work that the Lakers need to start doing now. Do you think that's something that they can?
Like, who's on the market, right? You were talking about that we might need to move Rui. My thing about moving Rui is I want a better player than Rui coming back.
Yeah.
And so that kind of clears a certain tier of player where if we are trying to be bigger and stronger, but not necessarily faster, like Rui could be a big, strong shooter. Like, I think Rui fits into that type of build. And so at the right price, I'd even like to have Rui back coming off of the bench. He's kind of getting shots up at a faster rate with this coming off of the bench. I think that's sort of flown under the radar too, of that. I don't think he's on a minutes restriction anymore. He played 28 minutes the last couple games, but he's still coming off of the bench. So that sort of like change in the starting lineup that we talked about so much has sort of happened and kind of flown under the radar a little bit. But in terms of the market, like that's the thing, is I've yet to hear too many names that I'm like, yeah, I really like that guy long-term for the Lakers. So MPJ, I think, is a more talented player than people realize. I also think if we're taking 2 steps down the road, starting with Luka step 1, Austin is step 2, defensive players, like guys who that's the main thing that they do, I think our third best player has to fit that type of description. So for as talented as MPJ is, and he would help the team. I think that between his contract, what his next contract is going to be, and what we already have on the team, I don't think you're going to have enough money left over to get the type of defense and rebounding that you'll need to, and athleticism in general. He helps a little bit there. He's a good athlete, but
he's a good rebounder too.
So that's why. So a guy like Claxton is interesting to me because he's a good defensive player, but there's also a certain element of they have other needs too, right? Like they need that two-way guy that slots in between Austin and Luka that might not be the same thing as your starting five.
Ironically, it's Max Christie.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Somehow I don't think he's available to the Lakers specifically. Can I just like really quickly rant about something that's been annoying me? Can we stop with the Warriors? And like, I have never seen a team's assets so inflated than I do with the Golden State Warriors. And it's because like Mike Dunleavy and those guys are always talking to reporters and like, oh, we think we could do. Like I saw the report the other day. It was like the Warriors are looking to trade for Giannis and sign LeBron as in the offseason. It's like, yeah, so am I. I'm looking to, work for ESPN and moonlight for HBO. Like what are we talking about? It's like as far as plans go. And then there was the whole like after Jimmy Butler got hurt, there were people saying that they could just swap Jimmy Butler for LeBron straight up. And I'm like, post ACL tear, Jimmy Butler with that contract is just going to get swapped for LeBron James. And there was nobody like calling the reporters who were echoing that sentiment out there. What world are we living in? Because if it was the other way around, if the Lakers were like looking, if I'm not saying this would ever reach that point, but if LeBron approached Jeanie Buss and was like, hey, I want to finish my career in the Bay, play with Steph, finally do all of these things. Can you send me up there? If that's how it was going to play out and Jimmy Butler were healthy, the Lakers would probably have to attach a pick to LeBron James, according to these people. And it's like, what are we like stopping, like, how is this a conversation?
This is only tolerable because when it happens is that like Lakers will make a real trade in real life, and it just blows their fucking mind.
Yeah,
like what it ends up being.
Why do the Lakers always get away with highway robbery? It's like, no, you guys suck at analyzing this on the way in.
Yeah, it's like you're really weird about the Lakers. And put the Luka trade aside, right?
Yeah,
Russell Westbrook was a $47 million expiring contract. That is actually a huge asset in today's NBA.
Especially now, yeah.
You can help teams get out of a lot of money that Utah was able to get out of Conley. And people were still arguing the Lakers would have to attach a first-round pick to an expiring contract. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Well, I always laugh at like so-and-so's expiring contract is seen as a negative asset. I'm like,
how?
What? In this apron world? Like you have owners pissing down their leg about crossing one of these aprons, and they're like, "Get me off of money." And the way that you get off of money is expiring money, and somehow you have to attach a second rounder to get off of Maxi Kleba. What are we talking about? The other one that I've been kind of laughing at, and it's indicative, I think, of a potentially quiet trade deadline because I think everybody's kind of positioning for Giannis, but like the amount of coverage of Jonathan Kuminga. This is like if Devin George demanded a trade while he was playing with Kobe and Shaq, and his trade demand was covered with the same fervor that Kobe and Shaq's rivalry was covered with. Like Jonathan Kuminga, this guy who can't stay healthy for one thing, and who a winning organization doesn't want around anymore. He's getting 24/7 coverage as far as like what. And it's completely because there's nothing else to report on.
That's right.
Editors are asking for any kind of trade intel. Producers are asking for any kind of trade intel and trade take and trade information that would go viral or whatever. But there's nothing to have because everybody is waiting for Giannis Antetokounmpo's latest update.
Yes, and that between that and the Warriors are the only team on the Lakers level in terms of engagement. Like if back when I was working for the team, we'd get the full reports for social media and just like, and it's like Lakers and Warriors way, way up here. And like the third team is either Boston or Brooklyn, but they are way below. And so that's part of it too. That whole phenomenon that we experience as Laker fans of like, this is only a big deal because it's the Lakers and y'all
Yeah.
are trying to get clicks. Like the Warriors do experience that too. And so when you combine that with the kind of a dearth of, and that I think you're right about the Giannis angle, like to bring that into the Lakers sphere. You know, I've been insistent that the Lakers are way more in on Giannis than people realize, but I don't think that getting Giannis himself is the only component of this that sort of holds up. It's not even holding up Laker plans. I haven't heard a name where it's like, yeah, go get that guy. But there is an element of like, well, what if Giannis went to the Knicks? They'd have to get off of Bridges and or Anunoby. Can we get in on that? Can we and we could absorb them. That's part of the value that the Lakers have with that cap space that they have, is that they could just absorb contracts in ways that other teams would have to send something back. So anyway, I think I think you're spot on with that idea, and that is going to be sort of a domino that needs to fall.
Yeah, I every time I've heard Giannis speak, it makes me feel worse and worse and worse for Milwaukee fans, because it's like this guy clearly doesn't want to be there, but he also doesn't want to be the bad guy, you know, and that's a lose-lose predicament for everybody.
Yeah,
and so like the Giannis thing, it's funny you mentioned the Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby as like a potential fallout for a Giannis trade, because I do believe he still would prefer to go to New York. And I'm fine. Stay East. If you're not going to be a Laker, stay East. But I maybe I'm overthinking this, and you tell me if I'm overthinking. I think I would rather get in on like OG or Bridges at a smaller value as a desperate New York tries to move on from this weird situation that they're in right now. I think I'd rather do that and pay that price than everything it would cost for Giannis with zero left over to improve the team after you acquire Giannis.
I think it's a fascinating conversation. You're not the only person who I respect who feels this way. I am on the other side of the fence of be kind of reductive about it. I don't want Austin Reeves to be the second best player on our team. I love Austin. I don't think we win a championship that way. And under this type of framework, we'd be keeping Austin, right? Like in a framework where we get Giannis this summer, you're starting with Luka, Austin, Giannis, Jake. Maybe you can get Marcus to opt in to his player option. You've got an MLE. You do still have some flexibility outside of that, right? Like you've got the 2026 first this year, although that might be in the Giannis trade type thing. So yeah, like I don't want Austin to be our second best player. I don't think we can win a title like that. But I do think I'd love to hear your argument, because I think there's a lot of good points to be made for why don't put all your eggs in the 3-star type of basket. Again, dummies, like haven't you learned your lesson? I get that too.
It's funny. If we were closer to the next CBA negotiations, I would be more in on a 3-star model, because I do think we're going to get the pendulum swing back the other way, where I think this has been too restrictive a system. And I think the next CBA negotiation, we're going to see some of the penalties for going over various aprons dissipate a little bit. And so if that's the ecosystem that you're operating in, then I would be totally open to a 3-star model of Luka, Austin, and Giannis, right? As it stands right now, though, and given all of the limitations that exist with the various aprons that you have to navigate and stuff, I want a more balanced, deeper team filled with two-way wings that supplement and make up for, or compound Austin and Luka's strengths and make up for some of their weaknesses. And I'm a little nervous about how Giannis is going to age, and I would really prefer to the things that Giannis would bring in the one player. I would like to have multiple players that bring a smaller extent of that athleticism to spread across the roster, so that there isn't such, because the biggest thing with like the Lakers that they've been kind of battling with for most of the AD LeBron era even has been when AD exits the floor, the defense falls off a cliff, and when LeBron exits the floor, the offense falls off of a cliff. And I would like to, balance out the roster a little bit more so that you don't have those peaks and valleys, because it really puts a lot of pressure on your peaks to make up for the valleys. All right, let's we have a couple of star comments here that we will answer before we get up out of here, starting with the most important sound on the show. All right, first question comes from Drip Show Shop. I was conned. They conned me, laughing at Steve Ballmer being on ESPN before. It is kind of crazy how much you could trace back to like the coverage of various, because the aspiration story has completely disappeared.
Mhm.
There was even a latest podcast that was barely a drop in the bucket.
Pablo did some real reporting, and everybody was like, "We don't do that around here. What are you doing?" Like,
it was so obvious, Pete, that was a response to it, because who was it? Was it Channing Frye?
mhm.
Who was like, why are you messing with people's money? He was asking Pablo, like, on his podcast, why are you messing with Kawhi's money? And it's like,
That's one way of looking at it.
that's journalism, is making sure like people can make money. I'm not against people making money.
Of course
I'm
not.
just not against somebody making money illegally in a way that hampers everybody else's ability to make money.
Listen, man, if this is the world we're living in, I want the Lakers to be the biggest criminal
will be.
enterprise of like, you'd be handing thumb drives of crypto to whoever needs to be, like, if this is the game we're going to play. But I think there's a certain premise underneath sports of like, we're all playing under these same rules. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be fair, may the best team win type of thing. That like, I don't really want to play that game. I think the Lakers could very much come out winners in that type of game, especially with Mark Walter in the and do some research on how they got that.
The Dodgers are ruining the sport.
Right.
Like, you want to exist in that economy?
Yeah.
You know, like my thing with like the like, you know, the coverage of this bus thing and like, I just don't like how clearly selective major news corporations have become. Like, this is a societal issue that, like, you know, for a lot of people, they only get their information from Fox News or CNN, or you get their sports information from, like, there are like Shams stands and there were Woj stands before. And if those people didn't break news, then that news did not exist until it was broken by them. And it's led to probably the least media literate society that we have ever lived in.
We're in trouble. It's a big reason why I do LFR and why you know, I'm gonna be doing some more political stuff now. My life's changed a little bit recently. Like, we're in trouble with, we have such a deluge of information that ideally everybody's honest and on the up and up, but this incentives point in a way where like these institutions exist to make money. ESPN exists to make money. They're trying to make money. They're trying to, and people like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee and Kendrick Perkins, they generate enough viral moments that make money. And that is the name of the game to such a degree that the whole like, the obligations of the media and all, and it's not like they're covering politics either, but the same dynamic absolutely exists in politics, right?
Yeah.
That's even nasty in a
but
nasty
I actually
way.
think, Pete, that like sports are a training ground so that you notice that shit in.
That's part of why
in
I do
politics.
this, even though like there's a very like political undertone to what I do, in that like this is a thing we all love. It's not as like, man, this is a drag, I'm not trying to listen to this, but it's like how we view information, who we get information from, how we can discuss information, how skeptical we can be about information, how much we can not just trust one person to tell us the truth every single time. We're all complicated. We're like that type of ability to discern information. There's been such a jump forward in humanity with social media from how much information we're being deluged with. Our brains were not made for this. Sorry, you and I could talk about this for like 2 straight hours, but it's super important that people increase their media literacy so that they can just tell bullshit from truth as best as possible.
Yeah, I'll never forget the experience of covering the JJ Redick hiring eventuality. And I think I reported on like a Friday, JJ is going to be the next guy. Like it's done. And I'll never forget getting quote tweeted by like a legit journalist, or at least like a legit fanalist or whatever, like, you know, that weird ambiguous line that we exist in now, who was like, you know, if Shams doesn't report it within 48 hours of somebody else reporting it, then it's not true. And it's like, you realize how much power that's assigning to one human being, right?
People love to lick boots. It's weird. It's weird as hell how much people like to
Wild.
give up their critical thinking to other people.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap up here. BG the Kid asking Pete, are you doing anything to watch games live since playback shut down?
Yeah, thank you for asking, BG. I'm over on Offside. We we're chatting in Offside. Just joined them. Anthony's there as well, and so I'm going to be talking to them. It's in development, this Offside app, and so it's not what it's going to be. I'm going to very much see if there's a way that we could get an audio component, but right now we're just bullshitting in the chat and do that. But it's fun. It was really fun. I had a good time last night. So yeah, we've done that for the last couple of games, and so that's where I'll be at. It's offside.gg/beta. And so then you've got to download something called Test Flight so one of the things that's cool about it is, since it's a beta test, it's like, if you want something added, if you want something changed, if you're like, I like this, but do this different, like that's part of being part of the beta testing. So if you want to join me over there, please do.
Yeah, Pete, we were really excited, to get you over there. And then we had that one meeting where it was you and Raj and Daman and us and some of the people on the back end of the app kind of talking about it, and was really excited about the chat as a thing. Because last night, Pete, really reminded me of like early Twitter days.
That's the idea we're going for.
You know what I mean? Like we're like, yeah, because back in the day, back in my day, like back in the day, it used to be like it was 128 characters and ats were included in those 128 characters. So we would have like these conversations or debates over like how much Byron Scott sucked, but we only had like 5 words to use, because it was like, hey, at HM Fagan, at Laker Film Room, at Foreign Blue and Gold, at so and so, and then why doesn't he play Ron, or why doesn't he play Clarkson? And then that was like the tweet, like that's all you could send. And last night kind of reminded me of it, because like if you sent a paragraph within the confines of a chat, nobody's reading that shit. So like it was nice last night to kind of go back to a group of people that were there in good faith, who were just there to like have a fun conversation about the game that was on.
Or even if it's like Clippers hit a 3 and we're just like, fuck, like just that moment, just going through that together. Yeah.
So if you guys are interested, again, like Pete said, or if you even just go to offside.gg, that's also another place where you can find that, and you can scroll through there and you can find your favorite creators. It's like this very video centric thing right now, but I think the chat has some real potential there as well. It's been really fun. It's been really fun to watch this thing grow. And it's a really exciting app that I can't wait to see kind of where it goes. And I just really miss those, like, it's a weird thing to say, right? But I miss back when my Twitter account had like 1,000 followers,
Oh no, there's a sweet spot of Twitter followers where after a certain point, it's like, this is actually a fairly miserable experience. That I know people, you got a lot of followers. Isn't that terrible? It's like, no, it has its elements to it.
So I would, this like allows us to go back to that,
Sure.
and I'm always like, the more the merrier. If you're there for the right reasons, if you're there to have a good time. Cool, but this gives us that opportunity. The audio aspect of it would be really fun.
I really think we should incorporate that. Gonna try to do that.
All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Hook Podcast and this week's episodes of the Lakers Lounge. As always, you can find Pete on his show, the Laker Film Room Podcast, which is always excellent. The plan for this weekend is, the Lakers don't play tonight; they play tomorrow. So you'll get like the offside recap of that. Then Sunday we'll jump back in here for a mailbag. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from us, have a great rest of your weekend. Make somebody else's, and pray for us in Texas, because it's going to be fucking freezing.
Yeah, good luck, my man.
Bye, everyone.